Hola, me llamo Pamela, vivo en Panamá hace 10 años.
Las situaciones negativas en el país considero más que todo que son a nivel político. Hay mucha corrupción en el gobierno, también hay mala administración de los recursos, entonces hay un poco de descuido en vialidades, en el mantenimiento general de la ciudad.
Some countries intrigue and surprise us with their unique way of life. Imagine a country where you can swim in 2 different oceans in one day, or a place where people can't hide their shyness when they see a stranger. They are extremely happy and embarrassed to see you. It's a place where people live modestly with their families and find happiness in simple things. Imagine immigrating to a country where you don't pay any income tax, so all the money you earn stays in your pocket. For this reason, it can be called a tax haven for online entrepreneurs. This country is Panama, which you may have heard of because of the Panama Canal. You may have heard of Panama, but not much is known about how the people live there. It is a land of concrete, sand, ships, and low taxes. It is a Central American country where people live in high-rise concrete buildings, and merchant ships pass through a narrow canal, generating revenue for Panama. With a surface area of 75,000 square kilometers, Panama has a population of only 4.5 million. Ranking 117th in the world in terms of surface area, Panama is the 130th most populous country. Its capital, Panama City, is located in the center of the country. The northern part of the country faces the Caribbean Sea, and the southern part faces the Pacific Ocean. Its land border neighbors are Costa Rica to the west and Colombia to the east. They were once united with Colombia but separated in 1903 with the support of the United States and declared independence. Panama's flag was designed after independence with rectangles divided into 4 and 2 stars of different colors. The flag is eye-catching and beautiful. The country is best known for the Panama Canal. The canal connects the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, providing shipping companies with a more direct route.
Y obviamente también Panamá tiene el canal de Panamá que también se puede visitar. Y entender un montón de la...
This paves the way for millions of dollars to enter Panama's coffers. The Panama Canal is an extremely important location because it is said to be the narrowest passage on the world map. It is certainly one of the largest man-made structures in the world. This brings with it an interesting fact. Panama is the only country in the world where the sun rises in the Pacific and sets in the Atlantic. Looking at how difficult it is for ships to pass through the canal reveals just how narrow this passage that divides the continent in two really is. Thanks to the ships passing through this tiny space, Panama hosts 15% of global trade. Imagine having a narrow passage dividing continents, through which you earn a lot of money from trade. Perhaps the phone in your hand or the computer on your desk reached you via this channel on a ship. This is why, since 1994, various research companies have recognized Panama as the world's greatest maritime power. As you might guess, this power is not about fleet strength, but rather the volume of trade. The country has a stable economy and attracts people with its high quality of life. In a country intertwined with oceans, it's expected that there will be plenty of fish. Panama is a major exporter of fish from Central America to the rest of the Americas, and fishing is the primary source of income for many people in the country. Since fishing is a good source of income, people are used to waking up early. The whole country of Panama starts the day very early. Unlike the rest of the world, people start work at 8 a.m., not 9 a.m. A considerable number of people even work out at 7 a.m. Since the sun sets at 6 p.m., people don't want to miss it. Therefore, they start work an hour earlier and finish before sunset so they can see it. Business offices in Panama are usually long, thin, skyscraper-style buildings. At the same time, huge structures are also being built for living centers where the country's elite live. Of course, there are also Panamanians who live in modest buildings. The country offers favorable tax conditions for expatriates, allowing foreign business people to live in luxury residences when they come to Panama. Some say that 25% of Panama's population of 4.5 million is foreign.
Se paga 2,25 la hora y creo que en la ciudad de Panamá el salario es un poquito más alto, llegando más o menos a un promedio de $650 por mes. Las profesiones más habituales para mí hay muchas personas, abogados, médicos, periodistas, y muchas personas que se dedican a crear empresas, son empresarios.
The average price of a decent apartment in Panama is around $180,000 to $250,000 for expatriates or locals who want to buy a house. Notably, Panama was the first Latin American country to adopt the US dollar as its currency. You can also rent beautiful, luxurious apartments in Panama City for around $1,000 a month. Rents for these apartments can go up to $1,500 per month. If you don't want to live in the city center, you can easily find housing outside the city for up to $500 a month. This is because there are small towns surrounding the capital. Some of the city's most vibrant areas are places like Costa del Este on the coast. A family with an income of $3,000 or $4,000 a month can rent a decent apartment in Costa del Este, have high-status neighbors, and play golf in the neighborhood. The average size of a 3-bedroom apartment in the capital is between 100 and 140 square meters. If you go to the richer areas of Panama City, you will notice that the people there have much whiter skin than the locals. These people are not actually Panamanians. They are people who moved there later on. Therefore, people with white skin are more vulnerable to being robbed in the country. They are the majority of the rich. In the country, people with money are considered extremely respectable. If a local notices that you don't have money, they will have less respect for you and won't give you credit for many things. For example, there is a tradition of clubs in the country. Rich communities become members of certain clubs. You can think of these clubs as foundations. Large sums of money are regularly invested in these clubs by the wealthy. Joining the club, for example, can cost as much as $100,000. Afterwards, a monthly payment is made in advance to ensure the club's continuity. Over time, these clubs become renowned in the country, becoming a stamp of reputation and prestige. The higher your club's status, the more influential and flamboyant you become within Panama. On the other hand, people who have never been to Panama think it is a small village surrounded by leaves and palm trees. However, that is not the case. Its capital, Panama City, is one of the most developed cities in South America today. For example, when people hear that there is no income tax in a Central American country, they may think the system is unstable and that they are going to a rural country. They are then surprised when they see an urbanized, developed country. The local people of this beautiful country have a typical Central American appearance. They look just like Costa Ricans and Colombians right next door. Both men and women have dark, tanned skin. The men are usually muscular and athletic, while the women have the plump curves often seen in Latin Americans. The women are friendly, warm-hearted, and eager. For this reason, men from Canada and the United States find Latin American women very attractive. Europeans, on the other hand, would never consider settling in Latin American countries like Panama due to security concerns. The problem for Europeans is not only about trust. In Europe, it rains even in the summer, and people wear jackets because of the cold weather. In contrast, Panama is a place that makes people sweat all the time and causes allergies. There are also many wild creatures in Panama, and Europeans are not accustomed to living among them. For example, Panama is home to 986 bird species, making it one of the top 20 countries in the world with the highest number of bird species. You are very likely to encounter a particular species of bird while walking on the road. For this reason, Europeans may be allergic to these creatures. They may not want to live in a climate where they constantly sweat because of the heat. In terms of beauty, Colombian women are the favorite among men who come here from abroad. However, it is safe to say that Canadian men and United States retirees marry young Panamanian women. People here do not get sick easily. Their bodies are more resistant to the elements due to the warm tropical climate, and their skin is thicker. Undoubtedly, people's biggest pastime in Panama is the relationships between men and women. Both men and women are physically strong, and their hormones are active. As in almost every Latin American country, dancing and family relationships form the basis of life. In Latin American countries like Panama, people value emotions. They live for their family and friends rather than for money or career. Of course, men are happy with their women, who are very desirable and warm towards men. Brazil is the only Latin American country with a high divorce rate, so Brazilians may lead the world in divorce. Brazil's high divorce rate may be related to its large population. In Panama, however, the population is small. There are fewer men and women, and people are more loyal to their relationships. If someone in Panama loses their partner, they might not be as fortunate as Brazilians to find a new partner in the same country. In any case, it would be unfair to cheat on the gorgeous women of Panama. In Panama City, especially, you will see some wonderfully attractive women who will dazzle you. This is why Panamanian men work hard to keep their partners happy and raise their children well. Women are the most valuable asset and the joy of life for men there. Even if a Panamanian man doesn't own a car or a house, he can be happy with just his wife and children. For them, happiness is not about material things. It's about family. However, there are still men in the country who prefer one-night stands. In Panama, there are garages for rent for short-term relationships. For example, there are places called Panama push-button motels. These places resemble garages in American movies and are painted pink. People don't go there to stay. They go for one purpose only: to have a sexual experience they can get away with. There isn't any staff working at these garage hotels, so people won't get caught cheating on their spouses. You pay $10 an hour, and the garage opens its doors to you. That, my friends, is the great pastime of the Panamanian people. Some also claim that these rooms are meeting places for criminals on the run. Since there are no identity checks, you can enter the rooms with money. A guilty person could hide there for a while. If you're new to Panama and don't have a partner, you can try satisfying your needs in a more level-headed environment. In the capital, for example, there are many places where beautiful, sexy women and muscular, strong men hang out at night. You can find dozens of cafes and nightclubs. As you know, Latin Americans are very interested in meeting and talking to new people. They are friendly and always smiling due to their genetics and character. If you take care with your appearance, you will definitely attract the attention of a beautiful Panamanian woman or a handsome man. Therefore, you should never be shy in a Latin American country. Be sociable with the locals. These nightclubs also have dancing girls dressed similarly, who are favorites of American men because of their beauty and smooth skin. While this is a source of entertainment and income for the country's poor, the wealthy enjoy going to casinos. In Panama, casinos are legal, and generating revenue from this sector is a goal. Therefore, if you visit Panama during the day, you may not see many people. Most sectors of the country operate at night, and people sleep during the day. Nevertheless, Panamanians present themselves as religious as possible. For example, they have a famous saying: if you ask a plumber to come fix your faucet tomorrow morning, he might say, "Mañana si Dios quiere," meaning, "if God wants me to come tomorrow." In addition to having a fun life with beautiful people, Panamanians are religious. They party hard at night, and during the day they go to church to pray and ask for forgiveness for their sins. Interestingly, a society that loves entertainment so much is also very religious. This suggests that Panamanians value spiritual and worldly pleasures simultaneously. For example, it's a country where someone can go to church during the day and drink at home that same evening. Walking the streets, you will see many street vendors, both men and women. Many elderly people try to make a living by selling things on the streets or doing other basic jobs. These people are most likely retired and working a second job. Younger people engage in construction, and those with a little capital open shops. They aim to earn better money through long-term jobs rather than temporary day-to-day jobs. There are also thousands of people on the streets of Panama looking for work of any kind. Considering the population and size of the country, finding a job there in a short time is difficult. Despite this, the Panamanian government offers many incentives to pensioners. Panamanian pensioners receive a 25% discount on land and air travel and at some restaurants and museums. Despite the difficult economic conditions, Panamanians never lose their enthusiasm for life. They are passionate, positive, and happy. For example, they say that wars are nonsense and that it's all about maneuvering. Honestly, if every country had people as beautiful and full of life as Panamanians, nobody would worry about other problems. Panamanians really radiate a positive outlook on life. In other words, they see themselves as struggling to survive and are not afraid of difficulties. If you go to Panama, you will see that everyone you meet has a strong character and acts maturely. Panamanians are hardworking, and they are mature from age 7 to 70. Although Panamanians are harmonious with each other, they are not happy with the bureaucracy and politics. They believe there is massive corruption in the country, though many will not admit it. They are dissatisfied with politics and expect their leaders to create a better living environment. I think this corruption and related economic problems persist in many South American countries. Venezuela is the best example of this. Also, when shopping in a local Panamanian store, don't try to bargain. People from Slavic and Middle Eastern backgrounds especially love to bargain. However, this is not the case in Central American countries like Panama. However, since living conditions are difficult in this country, people want to receive full payment for the products they sell, and they are right to do so. Remember that Costa Rica had a similar situation. Some products in Panama are absurdly expensive. For example, a product that costs $2 in the United States can cost $25 in a Panamanian shop. Retirees who move to Panama from Canada or the United States spend an average of $2,000 per month, which significantly contributes to Panama's economy. This influx of money also increases the national income of Panamanians. In particular, the eastern part of Panama is heavily forested, but since the 2000s, the forests have been cut down and open for mining. While this may appear to be an investment in the country, Panama's green lands are being transformed into piles of stone. These mining companies are usually based in Canada. For this reason, local Panamanian environmentalists criticize their government at every opportunity because they are not happy about this trend. The mines destroy green spaces, pollute natural water sources, and make people sick with the chemical gases they release. On the other hand, Panama has an immigration problem. Since Panama is located on a north to south and south to north migration route, there are migrants from unsafe Caribbean countries, such as Haiti, as well as dangerous South American countries, such as Venezuela. According to statistics, more than 500,000 people migrated to Panama in 2023 alone. A significant number of them entered the country illegally through the Darien Forest. Because of this, Panama's security is questionable. As you walk around the capital, you will see many police checkpoints and patrols. The police want to ensure the safety of tourists, especially those from the United States. If something were to happen to a U.S. citizen in Panama, it would mean that the country would enter into a political process that would cause problems. They never want to take part in that. The Panamanian government does not want illegal immigrants living in the country. If you are stopped by a police patrol while walking in Panama and do not have the proper documentation to live there, you will most likely be deported. The Panamanian police are especially unforgiving of illegal immigrants from countries further north, such as Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Honduras. These countries are home to some of the most unsafe and criminalized people in Central America. However, if you have a residence permit and are legally living in Panama, you will not be extradited, even if you are a criminal in another country. Panama only deports people who enter the country illegally or do not have a residence permit. On the other hand, banks and jewelry stores are the most frequently robbed in the country. If you go to a bank in Panama, you might find yourself in the middle of a robbery. This is especially true in December when unemployment is highest and the number of robberies increases. During the summer months, people find work in tourism and make a living. However, when these seasonal jobs end, the crime rate in the country increases. The nature of these robberies can be related to banks or even expensive shoes in front of houses. Sadly, most of the country's nearly 1 million impoverished people use electricity and water illegally. Well-off locals complain that they indirectly pay the bills for this illegal use. The wealthy in Panama claim that the poor do not pay for most things, and that their expenses are reflected in the rich's bills. The Panamanian government may be worried that imposing restrictions on the basic necessities of life for the poor, who make up a quarter of the country, would lead to massive protests. Therefore, they may be ignoring their bills. Despite Panama's various tax benefits, about 1 million of its 4.5 million people live in poverty. The people who struggle the most with poverty are mostly African immigrants and rural peasants. It is believed that there is significant income inequality in the country. Another problem is the country's limited space, which results in high unemployment. While the local population can find work in sectors such as finance, banking, tourism, logistics, and insurance, there are only enough jobs to employ 75% of the population. Due to the high demand for jobs, salaries in Panama do not reach very high levels. The average salary starts at $300 and goes up to $750. It is highly unlikely that a local Panamanian will earn more than $1,000 per month. For example, the total amount of money that enters the household of a Panamanian family of 4 does not exceed $800 most of the time. Pensioners' salaries are also very low. Panamanian pensioners earn only $200 a month, which is insufficient for living expenses. Of the country's 1 million poor people, about 650,000 are said to be below the poverty line. The houses in their neighborhoods are often pale and shanty-like. Spanish apartment buildings over 100 years old have not been maintained or repaired, so the paint peels and they are damp. The people who live there also look neglected. There is also considerable corruption rumored to exist in Panama. For example, bribes must be paid to complete business processes. Work is deliberately slowed down or brought to a standstill. Officials want to take bribes from you. People who want to escape poverty and survive are naturally involved in illegal activities. Since Panama is on the transit route between Mexico and Colombia, there is said to be a significant illegal drug trade there. Poor people build homemade submarines to transport banned drugs and use them to sell substances like cocaine to countries such as Mexico and the United States. They aim to make successful deliveries without getting caught by the police and then escape to other countries to escape poverty. Since Panama was a Spanish colony, Spanish is the main language spoken there, as it is in many other Latin American countries. Although Colombia wanted to keep Panama, the United States supported Panama because the Panama Canal served its interests. Colombia could not prevent this separation. Immediately after Panama gained independence, the United States took over the canal project from the French and completed the Panama Canal within 10 years. It is said that 27,500 workers died from landslides, infectious diseases, and work-related accidents. The canal allows ships to cross from one ocean to another, and tens of thousands of ships pass through it every year. It is an artificial project built for commercial purposes. It is indeed a successful engineering project for modern maritime trade. Since its construction, the canal has been and continues to be a key instrument of global maritime trade. A photo of U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt wearing a straw hat in 1904, when the canal was under construction, later became popular in Panama and was named the Panama hat. Today, many people in Panama wear straw hats, and Ecuador and Panama dispute the hat's origin. Many of the major projects that have helped Panama develop have actually been funded by the United States. The Bridge of the Americas is another example. Built by the United States, it connects the entrance to the Great Ocean in Panama with the Panama Canal. Most of the skyscrapers in the capital and investments from important companies are from the United States. Until 100 years ago, Panama was a small village consisting of swamps and deep wilderness, where it was easy to get lost. After gaining independence, the United States invested heavily in Panama. Of course, they did not do so altruistically, and they are reaping the rewards of their investments. For example, thanks to Panama, they were able to market their products abroad. Panama is the country where Coca-Cola was first sold outside the United States. Americans brought Coca-Cola to Panama in 1906, just 3 years after its liberation, and began selling it. There is also a significant Chinese community in Panama, and its members are the pioneers of the electronics business there. They open phone shops and sell phones, or they bring electronic devices from China to trade here. One of the most popular places to visit in Panama City, the capital, is the Amador Islands. From there, you can easily see the whole city. The islands are named after the country's first president, Amador Guerrero. From above, Amador looks like the branches of a flower, and the view is beautiful. Since the islands are close to each other, they are connected by roads, which facilitates transportation. During the construction of the Panama Canal, many construction materials were excavated, which were then used to build the Amador Islands roads. Speaking of transportation, Panama City, the capital, has a subway system. In addition to taxis and buses, the subway system allows people to travel anywhere in the city. One of the great pleasures for the wealthy in the city is owning yachts and enjoying tours and relaxation around the islands. In Panama, immigrants can send their children to high-quality international private schools. These schools teach in both Spanish and English. However, even if you send your child to a private school in Panama, you should be aware that some children smoke, especially in high school. In other words, investing money in a private school and sending your child there is not enough for them to grow up well. You might be surprised to learn that a family who moved from Canada to Panama claims that Panamanian schools have better education. They say that children learn their multiplication tables in 6th or 7th grade. At first, this information sounds like a joke, but their reasoning makes perfect sense. They talk about how Canada needs laborers rather than highly skilled professionals. The country needs workers and craftsmen more than lawyers and doctors. That's why the education given to children in Canadian public schools is very basic, they say. But in Panama, it's the other way around. There, too, they need more highly educated people to move the country forward. For this reason alone, Panama can be a logical choice for some families. In other words, they can send their children to private schools in Panama, whereas in their home country, they would send them to public schools. Similarly, someone who doesn't go to a private hospital in their home country can receive high-quality service at private clinics in Panama without knowing how to find public hospitals. Services are cheaper there. Additionally, Panama's medical sector is more developed than those of other Latin American countries. After gaining independence, they adopted medical training and technology from the United States, as they did in almost every sector. This made Panama more prominent than other neighboring countries in the medical field. Today, people in Canada and the United States who have serious medical needs often research prices and go to Latin American countries like Panama for treatment instead of staying in their own country. They will receive a similar quality of service at a much cheaper price. Panamanian hospitals have advanced equipment and medical supplies. In Panama, you can also own a luxury car by making low monthly payments, and you can get the same car for less than in places like Canada or the United States. Don't be surprised to see ultra-luxury vehicles, especially in wealthy neighborhoods. However, an unprepared migrant may encounter many troubles and problematic people here. When you apply for residency, you are first given a temporary residence permit for 2 years. Then, you can extend your residence period if you obtain permanent status. Over time, you can even apply for a Panamanian passport. For example, if you just settled in Panama and gave birth there, you can apply for a Panamanian passport. The Panamanian government makes it easy to obtain passports for foreign children born in Panama. So, if you don't manage to get a passport when you arrive, try having a child. By giving birth to your child in Panama, you can make him or her a Panamanian citizen, which will open the door for you to become a citizen too. I don't know what passport you have, but with a Panamanian passport, you can currently travel to 153 countries worldwide without a visa. In this sense, the Panamanian passport is the 24th most powerful in the world. It's not surprising that they have a strong passport because they have the United States behind them. Panamanians can enter many countries without a visa, including Schengen countries that are members of the European Union. In contrast, countries in South Asia and the Middle East must go to great lengths to obtain visas to travel to European countries. You also need to be fluent in Spanish to get a good job in Panama. Those whose work is not internet-related and who are looking for a job that requires physical labor cannot easily find employment without knowing Spanish. Additionally, it is extremely difficult for a foreigner to make money in Panama, where around 1 million people live in poverty and most of them are unemployed. However, if you are a computer programmer working abroad who doesn't need a job in Panama, you have an important privilege. After all, outsiders describe Panama as a country of corruption, with warm, positive people and nature lovers. Panama is indeed a tax haven for online businesses, whose owners can live comfortably and affordably in this country. In short, Panama can provide a paradise-like lifestyle according to one's status and financial means, making one feel happy. That's all we have to say about Panama for now. You can support us by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Goodbye.